All right, welcome people on the worldwide internet. My name is Kai Steinberg from Dive Instructor Academy, and today we have the first in our installment of What Are You Candidates Up to Now? And with me is Mel. Hello, Mel.
Hello, everyone.
Very cool.
Nice to
So,
see you.
Melanie, tell me, where are you located now?
I'm in Cairns, far
You're in
north
Cairns.
Queensland of Australia. Yeah.
Fantastic. And so, how long ago did you do your instructor development course with me?
Okay, I believe that was 2020. So about
2020, in
4
the
years ago.
middle of COVID.
I know, right?
I
It was a bit
remember it
crazy.
well. I remember it so well because the amazing thing was, for those of you who are not familiar with Cairns, Cairns is the gateway to the Great Barrier Reef out of Australia. And there would be 30, 40 boats departing to the Great Barrier Reef, ex-Cairns, every single day. And during COVID, that just came to a screeching halt. And so we had to think outside the box a little bit as far as our training is concerned. And we actually did our dives, the open water part of the IDC, not on the Great Barrier Reef, but we did it at a place called Lake Barine.
Marine.
Barine, that's the one. Yeah, you think Great Barrier Reef, beautiful coral, and we did it out on the lake in the tablelands. And the amazing thing is, and this is why Mel is on this program as well, is that I find it incredible that you have decided to start your own business in a place like Cairns, which is the Great Barrier Reef gateway, where you have multi-million dollar businesses with multi-million dollar marketing budgets and multi-million dollar boats. And you decided to start a one woman with a husband and a baby dive school in Cairns. I mean, tell me a little bit about your business and how did that happen?
Yeah, okay. Well, before deciding to be a dive instructor, so I was already a dive master all these years, but during COVID, so sorry, backtracking on the dive master, I wasn't working professionally as a dive master. It was just out of a hobby that I wanted to be a dive master. So I was working in the hotel and restaurant industry, and well, as you said, during COVID, everything closed down. There was nothing open, so I had no work, and all that free time has given me the idea on pursuing something that I really enjoy, which is scuba diving. And I thought to myself, you know what? I always wanted to go back into owning my own business. So that's not my first business. And thinking, okay, how about I'll just open up my own little dive school? So becoming a dive instructor, I always had that in the back of my head, yeah, to open up my own dive school. Yeah, it was not about working on boats that are going out on the reef. It was about figuring out a way for me to do my own thing. And so when I saw that you were the only one running an IDC during COVID, me and my husband, both of us, we jumped on board straight away. And yeah, well, we've been able to do this with you. And right after, as soon as I became a dive instructor, I was setting myself up with all the dive equipment, having, a brand behind as well already, then starting to market myself. And in knowing that all those tour operators were not operating, I still had the potential of bringing students up to the lakes and do the scuba diving courses up in the lakes, because the lake was still open for me to use and nobody else was using it. So this is where probably I found my little niche in a location that was different. That's true. I don't have pretty fish and coral, but it makes it so easy to get there. As soon as you have enough water, enough depth, well, what's wrong with diving there and learning to dive there? So, no, that's how I started. Yeah, pretty much.
That's incredible. I mean, to think about, for those of you who are not familiar with Cairns, one of the dive companies I used to work for, have two liverboards that sleep 40 plus passengers, three day boats. And when I was working as a dive instructor for one of those dive companies, we used to do 13 learn to dive courses a week, two in German, every day in English, and four in Japanese, for instance, and it's a huge industry. And so I take my hat off to you for, going into that very competitive industry. Obviously, you went into this thinking to yourself, all right, I've got the market covered at the moment because I'm the only one who's operating and I've got access to the lakes. Was it scary when COVID then finished and all these operators started running
Yep.
again? How did you
Yeah,
go
absolutely,
with that?
definitely. Well, then I realized the way I was running my courses was fitting very well in a particular type of people that I was looking for to learn to dive. So it wasn't so much like the tourism industry, and even what when I started my business, I wasn't hitting the tourism industry because there were none. I was hitting more locals. And I realized that what I can do in the lake is something that can't be done out in the ocean. So I was able to do some specialty courses. So this was still available, which was something that I kept going so that the locals can still hear me do something different than out in the ocean, but this was still not the most popular thing. It was mostly people that are working in the industry as divers. So I was hitting the occupational divers, and that realm of occupational divers, well, they don't always want to mingle with the tourism industry because it's different type of people, customers,
Sure.
students, and they really enjoy the fact that I was focusing merely on the occupational side. So skill oriented, all the knowledge development was done online, which is quite helpful as well. They don't have to sit in a classroom. They can do it at their own pace. And whether it's people that are working and they are learning to dive for work, or locals, they are usually quite busy already as it is. So they have to figure out a way where they can fit in, all the learning. So e-learning is great with PADI. And then coming to see me where I could fit really around their schedule. So I was very flexible to start off with. And I think that's one thing that made the difference, is that I wasn't setting courses far in advance. No, it was pretty much a ring, ring, Mel, can you get my open water advanced rescue, whatever, done? I need to have this done by this date. Yes, sure. And I made it happen. It was all about being flexible and getting this done. So that made the difference. My flexibility, being open to do this whenever it was possible. Then obviously I wasn't merely just doing scuba diving. I'm also a first aid trainer. But again, it's my own business. I can fit things around, the way I want to make it work for me and for my client. Yeah.
100%. And that is so important in business these days, to be able to be flexible, and being able to provide that personal service, because, especially not that tourism market, the local market, they all have 9 to 5 jobs and probably have only Saturday and Sundays off, and one of those Saturdays, little Bobby has a birthday party, so you can't attend that. So you make to fit that around. And that's very, very important in any business, and especially in this industry that we're in. Yeah. So you operate out of the lakes. I reckon one of the most amazing thing about operating out of the lakes would have to be that you don't have to rinse your gear afterwards.
Yes, that's true. We haven't got as much salt. There is still a little bit of salt in the lake, though, and there is still well, it can become muddy, especially when we do rescue courses and we got to drag the victim out of the water. It's a muddy area, so no, I always end up by still having to rinse off my gear. Yeah. There's a bit of cleaning still happening afterwards. Yeah.
Quickly tell me about Lake Marine. What's it like? What do you get to see?
Okay, so you have 2 lakes up in the tableland. Actually, no, more than 2, but these 2 are particularly called the Crater Lakes, and that's the Crater Lakes National Park, where you have Lake Eacham and Lake Barine. These both lakes are actually quite deep because it's kind of like a bowl. These are craters. They're very close to each other and very different from each other. Lake Barine has got more of a seagrass that is a good meter deep. It's kind of more of a slopey sort of bottom contour, so it doesn't drop straight away. So it's good for open water divers. And this one has got freshwater eels in there, which is awesome to watch. And they're quite long, yeah, and they're native from the lake. They do travel down somehow a stream at some point, and they then go and breed over somewhere in the ocean in one of those islands, but quite far away. And then, then they end up by coming back. So it's quite amazing to see that journey of those freshwater eels. And then you have Lake Eacham, which hasn't got much of that seagrass, so it's more silt and rock. It drops much, much faster. So we have a lot of tech divers using that lake in particular. It drops all the way down to 70 meters. Yeah, both lakes are quite deep. Lake Barine is just a bit more slower to get there. Lake Icham, bang, 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 it drops. And you have little...
I remember Lake Barine very well because that's where we did our IDC training, and it was very, very good because obviously these days we want to teach neutral buoyancy to start off with. And in Lake Barine, you have this seagrass, which is a good half a meter deep, like, and it's just as if you're putting your hand down nothing. It's just seagrass. So obviously teaching in there, all your students, you can't kneel on the bottom because you'd be kneeling in seagrass. And one of the things that actually happened to us was when we were practicing with the lift bag, we had this heavy weight and it just disappeared. So we had to put a rope on it with a float in order to attach the lift bag to that.
That's
so
it.
yeah, really, really good. Well, I've got a photo from memory lane, so let's just hang on 1 second. That was me in my colorful wetsuit. And to the right of me is Mel. And then we had a couple of other candidates. There was, I think, 6 or 7 in that IDC. But yeah, that was on one of the training dives. And there you can see a beautiful Lake Barine in the background, and you can see that grass going down gently in. Cool. So yeah, that was Lake Barine up there. Awesome training ground, and that's where Mel holds her business. So tell me, there is another person in your business who also became an instructor, and obviously your husband. What's his involvement in the business?
Oh, he helps me a little bit here and there, like filling the tanks, getting the car ready, and that's about it. Surface watching, yeah, because I do need a lookout, even up there in the lake. Yeah, I still need to have someone with me. So when he's back from work, yes, he helps me. But at the end of the day, he realized very quickly he hasn't got the patience to do instruction. Yeah, so he doesn't teach. He just helps me. Yes, yeah, yep.
All righty. So look, what's your advice for somebody coming into the industry, brand new, just done their IDC? I mean, you had the experience behind you of having owned your own business previously to that. And that's obviously huge, having that knowledge behind you. But what's your number one advice for somebody just coming out of the industry, whether or not they want to go work for a dive school or whether or not they want to start their own business? If they come to you, what's your number one take-home advice for those guys?
Get in the water. I would say get in the water, because becoming a dive instructor, yes, that's great, but then the experience behind is so important. And you can become a dive instructor so quickly those days that yes, you might have the certification, yeah, you've got the credential to teach, but you haven't got the experience behind it in so many different locations, in different conditions, different equipment, even maybe sometimes if you're trialing out different equipment. So I think it's so important to get comfortable, to be uncomfortable in places that you might not be familiar with. And so dive instructor will permit you to travel the world. So how about you do that?
And so Mel, tell me, now you've also have some really amazing news about what's happening with Octopus Dive. Tell me about it.
Yes, well, so as you know now, I've been using the lake mostly, but I've been always looking for another spot where I can do my courses out on the reef. And I was very persistent with Fitzroy Island Resort in trying to get access to their islands, which in a way it's a national park. Yes, you can do that from the beach, but the beach is very, very shallow. So I needed to use their glass bottom boat. It's been a 3-year journey to get through them. And finally, it's been happening. We have an agreement now. We're still finalizing a few things. Plus, I don't know if you saw, but there's been a new code of practice that just came out for divers. So we're just making sure that everything is on point and we can work this together fine. And very soon we'll see Octopus Dive also from Fitzroy Island. So that's awesome.
Fantastic. That is so awesome. I'm so happy for you. For those of you who don't know, Fitzroy Island is about a 30, 45-minute boat ride away from Cairns. Beautiful island itself. There's a resort on there. And yeah, so now Octopus Dive not only operates up on Lake Barine and Lake Icham, but also right on the Great Barrier Reef. So really well done. Welcome with that. That's awesome. Fantastic news.
Oh yeah, it'll make a big difference, definitely. So very pleased.
Just a couple of more questions before we finish up. What's the funniest thing that's happened in your dive career?
The funniest thing, trying to think now. I don't know, being chased by the smallest little fish you can have out on the reef, probably. Do you have those little damsels or even Nemo? I got attacked by Nemo. I mean, seriously. So I think it's probably interaction with wildlife
Okay.
that I found the funniest part, because you always end up by seeing something different down there, and depending on the time of day, time of year, you'll see things down there that's always going to be different, and you end up by realizing little things, how the marine life. Works together, and they end up by also seeing us and interacting with us in certain ways, and I think that's probably the funniest part. I can't think of anything else right now, but I'm sure
For
there's
sure.
more. But
For
yeah,
sure.
marine life.
And so when people do, I mean, tourists or not tourists or locals, if people want to get in touch with you for any courses, whether that be recreational scuba diving or dive masters or specialties, I suppose you do lots of specialties up there. You could even do altitude because you are at altitude. How does one get in touch with Mel at Octopus Dive?
Probably best is to hop on my website, and you have all the courses listed. There's also a calendar now attached where you can see what's available. But then most of the time you can just email me, call me. Well, calling maybe not. I'm usually either teaching on the water or in classrooms. So best is to email. Yeah. But you can on my website find all the details of everything that I do those days. So yeah,
And the
yeah.
website address is?
octopusdive.com.au.
Very cool. Guys, my name is Kai Steinbeck. I run PADI professional instructor development courses, not only in Australia, but also in the Caribbean and the Dominican Republic. We do one pretty much every second month. My website is diveinstructor.info, which will then take you to the Australian or to the Caribbean website where you can pick and choose your courses. For any information about professional instructor development courses, please get in touch with me. Mel, thank you so much for sharing your story and a bit about your business. And again, my hat off to you to starting a one woman with a husband who helps every so often business in the dive mecca capital of Cairns, gateway to the Great Barrier Reef, thinking outside the box. Love it. Fantastic. Well done. And I'm so glad that I was able to be a little tiny part of your journey of
Photo, big
where you
part.
are now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kai.
Thank you.